Takes it a minute. Hello, and welcome to our very first horse chat. We're excited to have you back and to saddle up and talk about all things equine this month. Um, I'm Brittany Sweeney. I'm the communications manager at the Livestock Conservancy. Today, I'm joined by Charlene Couch, our senior programs manager, and Gabrielle Gordon. First, I want to remind everyone that we're going to chat a little bit and then we'll answer questions at the end. And if you want to, you can leave us a comment in our Facebook here and we'll answer those questions at the end. And then also a special thank you to the NC Horse Council and Premier One for their generous support of the Livestock Conservancy. They help make programs like Horse Chats this month possible. And without further ado, we'll go ahead and get started. Charlene, do you want to introduce Gabrielle?
Yeah, thank you. Gabrielle is the current president of it's the Cleveland Bay Horse Society of North America. She's also a past board member for the Livestock Conservancy. She's here today to talk to us about Cleveland Bays. And Gabrielle, I know that bay is a horse color, but what is a Cleveland Bay?
A Cleveland Bay is the oldest standardized breed in England, and they were developed in the late 1700s from a horse called the Chapman's horse, and they're an all-purpose horse, which meant mostly middle class or farmers owned them. They could do anything. They were known for being really strong, and they could farm. Plow some fields. They are not a true draft horse. They call them draughts. And they could drive the family to church on Sunday, and then they could hunt them also. So they're like the jack of all trades of a larger horse breed. And they're called bays, Cleveland Bays, because they're primary bay in color.
Okay, all right. You said that the Cleveland Bays were used in the past primarily for like pulling plows and carriages. What are they used for now?
Well, today there's only about less than 1,000 that we know in the world. There's about 225 or so in North America. But being a rare breed, they're mostly used for pleasure purposes. Some of them are shown. Some of them are driven. A lot of trail riding. But being at such small numbers, and a lot of them are fox hunted. There's a lot of fox hunting still left in the United States and a lot in England. But they're an all-purpose, just a family horse. They're again, like a jack of all trades. They can do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, they're beautiful horses.
Thanks. Yeah, we love them. Yeah.
Yeah. How did you get involved with the Cleveland Bay?
Well, I'm like a lot of kids. I grew up not having horses. I'm an Army brat. So we all went to, we all get our picture books out, like Encyclopedia of the Horse or something like that. Anything that was probably written by Hartley. I think it's Edmund Hartley, or any of the encyclopedia of horses of the world. And I would go through there and look at all these horses that I wanted to own. And my mother loved England, and she used to listen to Masterpiece Theater with Alistair Cook or watch it. And so I wanted a Cleveland Bay because, again, it could do a little bit of everything, and that's what I wanted to do. So they're hard to find.
Yeah, they're hard to find. They're very rare.
Yes,
you have Cleveland Bays yourself.
Yes, I have. How many do I have right now? I have 4 purebreds and a partbred. The Cleveland Bay Society of North America, and the Cleveland Bay in England, which is the oldest organization for Cleveland Bays, and the Cleveland Bay Society of Australasia, which is Australia and New Zealand and the Asian area. They all recognize pure and partbreds. Not all breed associations recognize partbreds, but the Cleveland Bays do.
And what is that?
I don't know. Part of it could be part marketing. But and what they do is a Cleveland Bay is a great all-purpose horse, but it's not your showpiece horse. So, but with hybrid vigor, you add a little bit of thoroughbred or quarter horse or saddlebred, and you get a super show horse. So the Cleveland Bay partbred is kind of like the flag bearer or the Britons call them, I forgot what the word they use, showcase them, or and then the purebreds are the ones that hold the breed together, because you can't have all part breds without purebreds. So they work together, window dressing, that's the word they call it. And also up until even though the Cleveland Bays were developed in the late 1800s, late 1700s, early 1800s, another horse at the same time was developed called the Yorkshire Coach Horse, which is now extinct. And there's a new book out on the Yorkshire Coach Horse. And a lot of them were in the United States. And then when the Yorkshire Coach Horse went under, because we didn't need as many fancy coaches after 1900, the Cleveland Bay Society took in some of the horses from the Yorkshire Coach Horse, and they're now to the Cleveland Bay breed. So that's why folks talk about thoroughbreds with Clevelands, and that part of that is from the influence from the Yorkshire Coach Horse.
Okay.
Now, Gabrielle, you just showed a book, and in case people can't really read that, what was the name of that book that you just held up?
The name of the book is a book that there's very, very few books specifically on Cleveland Bays. And a new book came out called The Dash of Blood, A History of the Yorkshire Coach Horse, by a woman named Anne Britton in the United Kingdom. And she chronicles she has a lot of information about the Cleveland Horse Society, but how Clevelands came to the United States and were quite a very large breed in the United States until the early 1900s. And of course, they all disappeared pretty much after World War I. But it's interesting, and like places like Iowa, which is, I think, where Premier is from, there are a lot of horses in, Premier's from Iowa, a lot of horses in Iowa, Colorado, all the Midwest, New York State, thousands of them. And then a lot of things happened to horses in the late 1800s and 1900s that their numbers were decreased. Mechanization, wars, depressions, stuff like
Sure.
that.
Right. Yeah. So,
but there's
we're in the market, or not the market, I guess, but we work in the world of conservation and trying to save rare breeds. Why is it important, do you think, to save the Cleveland Bay in particular?
Well, for genetic diversity, I mean, they're a unique breed, because when a lot of us were growing up, we were told that horses are in three categories. They're cold bloods, warm bloods, and hot bloods. And a cold blood would be a draft horse, like a Clydesdale or a Shire. Shires are on the list, whereas American Creams, or we were told they were hot bloods like thoroughbreds or Arabians, and warm bloods were something in between, usually from hybrid bigger, like the Swedish warm bloods and stuff like that. But Clevelands, Friesians, they're unique because they're not really fit into any of those categories, and we need the genetic diversity. And we need that in all of our breeds. And that's one of the missions of the Livestock Conservancy. And the same thing's happening. And once the genetics is gone, they're gone forever. And we can't lose them. So it's best to have a conservation. And the Cleveland Bay, I forgot to say this, the Cleveland Bay Horse Society of North America is a strong supporter of the Livestock Conservancy. We've been members for several years, and we appreciate the Conservancy, and that's why we are members. And we're also members because of we're North America. There's Cleveland Bay purebreds in at least 4 provinces in Canada. So we also support and are members of the Conservancy's equivalent, which is Heritage Livestock Canada.
Right.
We appreciate all of your support and everything that you do for this breed, and it's always great to have you all on board.
Well, folks may not know that there's so much technical support that the Conservancy can give us, especially they can give us a lot of scientific support and genetics, because there's a lot of things we love about our breed, but a lot of us don't know about the more research, genetics, health of our breeds. Because, for all of us, whether you're a Cleveland Bay breeder or Shire breeder or Highland ponies or whatever, we believe our horses are the best in the world. and they're perfect, and they don't have any health problems and any genetic problems and any problems at all. Of course not, because we love them. But the Conservancy will bring us back to the earth and help us with if we do have problems with health or genetics or questions like that.
Yeah, we're working a lot with breed associations over the next couple of years, and we really want to communicate that we're here to help other breed associations, including the Cleveland Bays. But
yes,
yeah,
we
absolutely.
Yes, yes.
All right. Well, one of the things that I realized in doing some background reading is how much the Cleveland Bay has contributed to other breeds way back in the day.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Cleveland Bay was very popular. Their heyday was probably like the 1830s to the 1860s, and that was probably the height of the British Empire. And of course, Cleveland's are from England, mostly northern England, and the British monarchy had Cleveland's as early as I believe the late 1800s. So
and they still do, right?
And they still do. Queen Elizabeth, God bless her soul, she keeps Cleveland's at the Royal Mews. And if you see a Cleveland Bay that's name starts with Hampton Court, that's the Queen's breed prefix. So she still breeds Cleveland Bays. They pulled the royal carriages, all except for her carriage. Her carriage is held by Oldenburgs, and they call those Windsor Greys. But when you see the Prince of Wales and Prince Harry and Prince William, Prince Harry's in California now, but California dude. But they're all Cleveland Bays, and King George V, I think, had Cleveland Bays, and they were gone from the royal stud for a while, but they're back and they're doing great. But yes, many of the European warm bloods, Hanoverians, Holsteiners, cows and horses, and and even some in Eastern Europe, the Austro-Hungarian Empire, they had Cleveland Bays.
Okay, yeah, that's neat, because if we wanted to recreate an Oldenburg, we've got Cleveland Bays left. But if we wanted to recreate a Cleveland Bay, what would we do?
That would be tough. That would be tough.
You could,
yeah.
It would be gone.
That's right.
You would just hope there's a hidden herd somewhere we could find. Yes.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting to me that this is an international breed, and so that conservation has to extend it's not just here in North America, but we have to work with people in other countries to be sure that these breeds are that they survive.
Yes, and there's a very small population in Australia and New Zealand, and they have a hard time because it's difficult to get a horse there. It's even difficult with all the restrictions to get semen there, right? Because we do import-export semen, and they've had Cleveland Bays since the 1800s, just like us. They imported a lot of them in the early mid-1800s, but getting a Cleveland to Australia or New Zealand is terribly expensive. And we even, and we forgot to mention that in Japan, the imperial stud also has Cleveland Bays. They have a pair of Cleveland Bays, which they use for state occasions. So if you're a diplomat and you're the ambassador, let's say, to the United States, and you have to present your credentials to the emperor, you have the choice of being taken to the emperor in a limousine, or you can have a pair of Cleveland Bays pick you up in a carriage and take you to meet the emperor. So most people pick the carriage.
Good plan.
For obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons. Yeah.
So well, Gabrielle, this is such a rare breed. If I'm watching this and I am really thrilled about Cleveland Bays, where would I find one?
Well, there are a lot of breeders here in the United States, and you can find a list of those horses for sale on our website, which is clevelandbay.org. And you can also look on the British site, which is clevelandbay.com, because they have a lot of international horses. But the biggest one is us, got to plug us, clevelandbay.org. And there's a lot of Cleveland Bays for sale. But there's a lot of people who call partbreds Cleveland Bays. So make sure you do your homework, ask for the pedigree, ask a lot of questions. If in doubt, you can write us and we can look up, because being so few, we can look up whether you're not being had. It's very difficult to find a maid or a well-broke purebred, because being a heavier horse called a draught, they're longer to mature. And by the time a breeder or like myself breeds one and it's old enough to ride, and you ride it and it's a great riding horse, we have a tendency not to let them go. So you'll have to get a baby, or maybe lease, or consider for your first Cleveland Bay a partbred, and then maybe a purebred. There's a lot more 3/4 breds available in North America than I've ever known in my lifetime, probably since 1900. A 3/4 bred would be a cool part to have also.
It would. You said you're a breeder. Do you have any babies on the ground right now?
I have one baby. His name is Galileo, and he is already sold. He was already sold before he was born. And he is going to Olympia, Washington. So he'll be up there in the Pacific Northwest, visiting Starbucks when he can. And hopefully he's going to be a breeding stallion and a show stallion. For performance. He's going to a performance home. And I have one horse leased right now. And that's another avenue people could try, is leasing a purebred or a partbred, because having horses is very, very expensive. And then you don't want to buy a horse and then think to yourself, oh my gosh, what am I going to have if I lose my job, like the pandemic right now? Or my daughter, who I thought loves horses, actually now likes boys and cars more than they like horses. That kind of happens. That happens a lot. Boys become more interesting than horses. Then the horse goes back, and you're not saddled. Saddled with all the expenses. I know, of owning a horse. But if you can lease, and my mare that's being leased is how old is she now? She's 18, I think, 17 or 18. And that way, all those students can learn whether the Cleveland Bay is a horse for them.
That's a really good idea.
Yeah.
What I realized, I was talking to one of my coworkers the other day, and Cleveland Bay horses are also on display at Colonial Williamsburg. So if you're on
yes, it's fantastic. Yes. It happened a few years ago. The livestock manager called and started looking for them, because he was doing research and noticed that United States, we've had Cleveland Bays probably since the mid to early 1800s, maybe at colonial times, but I'm not. And he really wanted to introduce them, and they have a great program. And the new livestock manager I think his name is Andre Jeter. And he's doing a great job. They've purchased some, they've leased them, and I think they're doing a great. I think Martha Washington. Now, who is it? Martha Washington or who is he? Oh, Lafayette loves to ride his Cleveland Bay around Colonial Williamsburg. So chat with them, give them a croissant, and talk to them all about Cleveland Bays. But yes, they're doing a great job, and they know their history, of course, is Colonial Williamsburg, and they are really doing a great job promoting the breed.
That's great.
And they're fun, super people at the same time. So it's a bonus. Yeah.
Well, Gabrielle, do you mind if we take a few questions from our Facebook?
Of course. Yes.
Excellent. Yes. Let's see. I'm going to put some up here on the screen. Kelly says, "Hola, hola, Kelly. Thanks for tuning in today."
Hola.
Let's see. Susan says, "Hey, y'all from South Carolina." Hi, Susan. Thanks for tuning in.
Right. We have. Yeah.
Let's see. Karina says, "Cleveland Bays are so handsome. Is there interaction and cooperation between the main Cleveland Bay registries in the U.S. and the U.K.?"
Yes, well, the Cleveland Bay Horse Society is in England, and they're the largest and the oldest registry and organization in the world. the United States, the Cleveland Bay Horse Society of North America does not maintain a registry. We retain a census, and we try to get everyone to tell us where your Cleveland Bay pure and partbreds are, so there's less chance of them getting lost. There is a new registry that's been around about 5 or 6 years in North America, and it's called the International Cleveland Bay Registry. And all of us get along. We all talk and we work with each other because we know that without each other, we can't survive. So it's a good, it's, you know, sometimes, you know, when you have more than one registry, it can get a little rocky, but we all know that the goal is the breed, and we all work together.
Great.
So we're very fortunate. Mm-hmm.
And
in England, there's the, you know, their equivalent of the Livestock Conservancy is Rare Breeds, the Rare Breed Survival Trust, yes. And they work a lot with the Cleveland Bay Horse Society in England. So they're very fortunate to have that relationship.
Right.
That's great. Let's see. Karina wants to know, Gabrielle, you recently bred a new purebred Cleveland Bay foal. Can you talk about what your goals are for his future and a member of the rare breed community? I know you touched on this a little bit.
Well, luckily the one I do not breed very often, and I'm very cautious when I'm selling, because there's a very large meat market in the world, you know, horse meat market, and I'm always, you want to make sure your horse goes to a good home. And this gal is been a breeder for a long time. She lost her stallion a while ago, and this will be a grandson of her stallion. So her goal is the breeding and to get him into the show ring in a discipline that he likes the best. So I'm looking forward to that.
That's great.
He takes after his grandfather.
If you've got some cute photos, we can post them later if you want.
Yeah. He's a little bit of a toot, but he's fun. Yes. Like most. All right, Puerto Rico.
Let's see. Romaldo says, "Hi from Puerto Rico. Hola. Thanks for tuning in."
We don't have any purebreds in Puerto Rico, but maybe someday we will. But partbreds would be super in Puerto Rico.
Yeah.
Lynn Knight, I see. Can I say that? I see these messages coming in. And Lynn Knight, she's a wonderful pure and partbred breeder in Vermont. So way up north in Vermont. And she has purebreds and partbreds. So she's one of those breeders that work with both. And she's right. They make wonderful, versatile horses.
That's great.
Yeah. I've heard that some have been trained to Olympic standards.
Yes, the partbreds have. Yes, they went to, I think there were some at the 1968 Olympics in Mexico City. I think they were on the reserve team for Great Britain. And then I noticed there's a message coming in Canada. Hello, Monique.
Yes. Hello, Monique. Thanks for tuning in.
Hello, Monique. And we have purebreds in Quebec, Ontario, Alberta, and British Columbia. And then there's pure partbreds all over the country of Canada. And we're offering some new award programs to try to get more Cleveland Bay owners in Canada more active in the show ring. So Monique, look for that on our website. It's a Canadian.
So it looks like she doesn't have Cleveland Bays, but she has Canadians, which is also a great.
Oh, Canadians are beautiful horses. I love them. We had a Canadian breeder come to the Endangered Equine Alliance conference we had. And but yeah, tell your friends about the Cleveland Bay Awards specifically for Canadians. But I like the Canadian, whatever. Got someone from South Africa.
Hello from South Africa. Thanks for tuning in, Mervyn. Yay. Welcome. We're excited you're here.
There were a large population of Cleveland Bays in South Africa in the early 1900s, but I don't know if any of them, what lines are still left. They've become lost. So if you can do research, we'll try to help you out to try to find if there are any Cleveland Bays left in South Africa, probably partbreds, but it'd sure be good to find out, whatever happened to them.
Yeah.
And South Africa sent a lot of horses to Australia too.
That's great. Let's see. Stephanie says she has a young half Cleveland Bay mare in training now, and she's lovely.
Yes. See, and that's kind of a catch-22 on part breds. And I don't know if this is happening in other breeds. Charlene would know better, but hybrid vigor, people love part breds sometimes they love part breds too much that they'll use their purebred and breed too many part breds and forget that if you don't have enough purebreds born, you lose the purebred. So part breds are great. I've bred one, but I've got to make sure that I also breed enough purebreds. If not, the lines die out and I lose genetics. And that may have happened in other breeds, not just horses.
Sure.
That's right. That's right. Retaining the original breeds is critical to creating that hybrid cross that gives you such a beautiful animal.
Yeah,
and often a part bred is, I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's okay. I've interrupted you. This next question is along the exact same lines. Mamuna says, you were recommending part breds for new owners because breeders tend to keep their purebreds, but isn't that destroying the Cleveland Bays because each individual horse can have only so many foals in their lifetime?
Well, the reason why I'm recommending purebreds is purebreds are for sale. And, sure, if you can purchase a purebred, but a lot of time people write me and they want a made purebred, which is one that's already going under saddle. And it's really hard to find a made purebred that's already going under saddle. So if you can't find a made purebred, consider a part bred, and then later on getting a purebred. And that's how I started. I couldn't afford a Cleveland until I was in my 30s, like a few years ago. But so what happened is I bought an older part bred, and she was wonderful, and she taught me a lot, and I learned a lot about the breed. And then I rode her until I could find a purebred that was available. And so she taught me a lot about the breed. And so I learned the value of both purebreds and part breds.
Sure. Let's see. Lynn is reminding us that there are also so few pure mares that there might be a bottleneck for the breed.
Yeah. Yes, and she's exactly right. And then you get caught in this quandary: do I ride or drive, or do I breed? And there are very few pure mares out there. And then being in North America, we have imported horses, of course, and semen, and then you end up with a bottleneck in genetics. And then there's a term they call in this excellent book. I don't know if you guys have seen this book before.
Oh yes, that's a good one.
And they talk in this book, the authors talk about something called popular sire syndrome. And what happens is you get a great stallion or a great mare, mostly stallion, because they can, guys get around. So they become so popular because they see the stallion is so wonderful. Everybody wants to breed to him, or he's more affordable, or he's more available. And then what you have is you have way too many of that one line, and you get a bottleneck. That's what Lynn is referring to. And it's really hard because you want a diversity. And if you end up getting in that bottleneck, it takes a long time to get out of it, if you can get out. And that's what places like, Australasia is having right now, because, they have too many horses that are related to each other, and they're working hard to try to bring in semen or something to get more diversity in their population. So,
sure.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So
let's see. Got a couple more questions. Are these horses a heritage breed in the U.S. from English colonies? Cleveland Bays.
Well, yes, because they were imported. Well, not so much English colonies. They started out in the Yorkshire area. So, and there's a Cleveland area, which is eastern England near Yorkshire. Like if you see All Great Creatures, Great and Small, the James Herriot series. And then they were brought to the United States at probably around we're not really sure, early 1800s to the Civil War. So that would be the United States. And I believe the rule, and Charlene would know this better, if the breed has been established in the United States since at least, I think, 1920, 1920, then it will qualify for a rare breed here with the Conservancy. Every country has different rules on how they define their rare breeds. So if you go to RBST, Rare Breeds Survival Trust, or Heritage Livestock Canada, you have to look up their rules on what they define as a rare breed in their country.
And that's the same here for the Livestock Conservancy. We have a conservation priority list that lists, strangely enough, conservation priorities where we direct effort to save breeds.
And we have breeds coming, that are being listed as new breeds all the time. We have the Peruvian, it's a gated horse. He's a new one to me. Oh no, I'm sorry, from Puerto Rico. The new horse.
Pasofino.
Yeah.
Pasofino. And unfortunately, more come into the system than graduate. We're working on more graduating. Horses are going to be difficult to graduate because they only have one foal, and their gestation period is so long, and they mature later. So, it's horses, and then they have difficult to market them. You can't market them like any of the other species. So I think horses and donkeys are going to struggle for a long time.
Unless we help them.
That's right.
Unless
that's
we
what
help
we're trying to do.
We do our best. And that's the reason why it's good to join the Conservancy.
Absolutely. We've got another question from Kenneth. He says, hi from Joglin Farms in Caledonia, New York. They have part breeds, and we're wondering if you can DNA track lineage. We have 3 generations on our farm. We have crossed with thoroughbred, then Belgian, and most recently our Lippet Morgan stallion.
Ooh, I like Morgans. I like Belgians too. It's really, Texas A&M has a new program, and I call it the 23andMe for horses. And if you, I know it's not really, and I'm not plugging 23andMe, but that's what I call it. This is not an endorsement for 23andMe, but of course, if they give the Conservancy a donation, no, not really. But sorry. So they have Texas A&M is a very well-established, one of the top equine universities research in the world, and they have genetic samples of at least 52 different breeds. And you can send a hair sample with follicles on the hair, mane hair. There's all instructions on how to do it for $45. And they can give you an idea based on their research of what your horse's breed might be. And so it could be Cleveland. And then you can contact us and we'll do old-fashioned detective work to see if we can figure out which lines or pedigree it's from. It's hard to do as far as it's easier to figure out it may be a Cleveland or it may be a Lippet Morgan or it may be a Belgium. The hard part is finding out the specific pedigree because unfortunately some horses aren't registered. Some horses are not sold with their papers. And this is what happens in all breeds, all species, not just breeds. They're not sold with their papers. Their registration papers aren't properly transferred. They end up at auctions without. I'd advise everybody who has a horse to have it microchipped. So if something happens and if it's stolen or sold on, and to keep the microchip information current. And so these horses aren't lost. And that's the biggest problem with a lot of breeds. They're sold on and lost. And then when they're lost, it's hard to find them again. And that's what our census does. On our website, you can look up and there's hundreds of horses listed that we believe are around North America. And people will look at them and say, wait a minute, my horse isn't lost. It's here with me in, Mississippi. And so we'll update our files.
That's great advice.
So, yeah.
Courtney also wants to know, are there grants or programs to introduce this breed into other areas of the U.S.?
Oh, we would love to have, we don't. There is a grant program if you're a resident of the United Kingdom or Great Britain, but we don't have anything here in the United States, unfortunately. Unfortunately, we don't. But you have a lot of moral support and a lot of people helping you and, helping you find farms and where to buy horses and maybe trainers and, and nutrition. But we don't have anything available. But the Livestock Conservancy has a micro grant program that it started a few years ago, and it offers scholarships and grants to folks. Now the grants just closed for applications, but there'll be grants available in 2021. So check out the Livestock Conservancy and look for their micro grant program, and you might qualify for a grant through them.
That's a great plug. Thank you for that.
Oh, anytime.
We've got one more question from Allison, and she wants to know, what outside the box ways are people using Cleveland bays?
Well, Allison, that's a great question. Cleveland bays historically would be driving, but driving is a very expensive hobby and it's very difficult to do. So there are a few Cleveland bays being used in therapy situation because they're nice big horses, and some folks who need special needs students or whatever are taller, bigger people, so they need a big horse. Endurance and trail riding has now been another discipline that most people are using Cleveland bays. The partbreds a lot, but the purebreds are great for distance riding, especially in the colder climates, the colder states. We even have a Cleveland bay in Florida. So I think that's one of our new areas that we can explore. You know, people are moving toward endurance riding, besides all the traditional disciplines. And then some Clevelands are used for like hauling for ranch work in the West. That's another thing that Cleveland's probably did in the late 1800s, and now they're doing ranch work again, like in Montana. But I'd encourage everybody to check out distant riding, which is endurance and competitive trail, because Cleveland bays don't like, they like adventure. That's why they like fox hunting so much. And so you give them adventure and being out on a trail, and they're really happy campers, and they can go, all day because, they're like a little Boy Scout. They love the trail, and they'll keep on going and going and going because they like the adventure. Or a Girl Scout, of course, Girl Scout. Yay. I was a Girl Scout. So, but I would really encourage, and that way it is more, one thing about, we were talking about earlier is affordability. Showing horses is very expensive, and endurance is one, and some of the Western disciplines, but endurance is one of the most affordable. It's a family sport. A lot of families do it. Just trail riding is a fun thing to do. And then the endurance is a very affordable discipline and very family friendly. And they're very in manners and protocols. So it's fun for the whole family. And you meet a lot of nice people.
I'm sure. I'm going to put your website at the bottom down here so people know to go there and check out more information about Cleveland bays. And thank you to everybody who wrote questions and joined us today. Gabriella, did you have anything else you wanted to add about Cleveland bays that we didn't ask that you think people should know?
Well, Cleveland bays are a slow maturing horse. So, with anything else, Cleveland bays are a horse for a lifetime. So take your time training them, take your time breaking or driving them, riding or driving them, and you'll have a companion for life if you just take your time, and they'll love you for life. And the last thing is join the Livestock Conservancy. It's a great organization.
Thank you. We always appreciate that. Charlie, did you have any other questions or things that you wanted to ask or talk about today?
This has been great, and I really appreciate you joining us from Texas today. There will be more horse chats coming up this month, so tune in next Tuesday.
Yes, great, absolutely. Thank you. And I'm looking forward to the chats all month, and the Livestock Conservancy is a great resource, and take advantage and write them core questions and help.
Please do. We're always ready for those questions.
Yay!
All right, so we're going to sign off. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. We appreciate it, and we'll be back next week. Have a good week, y'all.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.